All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting our hands dirty, so to speak, with the Illinois Electric Cooperative's Safety Manual. We're going to focus on the tools you use every single day. They're basically extensions of your own hands, right? So we'll dig into the hard and fast rules for hand tools, power tools, and of course, the absolutely critical live line tools you bet your life on. It's all coming straight out of Section 6 of the manual.
So, here's the game plan for today. First up, we'll talk about your responsibility for your tools. Then we'll hit the inspect, don't expect rule. After that, it's all about the do's and don'ts for hand and power tools. Then we'll get into specialized and live line gear. And finally, we'll wrap up with how to store and take care of everything once the job's done. Sound good? Let's jump in.
You know, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of tool safety, let's just pause on this. This quote from the manual's introduction, it's really the core of everything. Nothing is more important to yourself, your family, or your employer than your safety. Only you can make it happen. Seriously, let that sink in. This isn't just about following rules in a book. This is about your life. It's about your crew's lives. Every single thing we're about to talk about, it all comes back to this one powerful idea. Okay, and that leads us right into our first big topic, your responsibility, your tools. It's a simple concept, really. When it comes to safety on the job, the buck stops with you. Personal accountability is job one. So, what does that personal responsibility actually mean day in and day out? Well, the manual lays it out pretty clearly. It's on you to look out for your own safety and, just as important, the safety of your coworkers. You see an unsafe condition, you report it every single time. You've got to make sure your tools are in good shape. And here's the big one. You never ever start a job if you think it's unsafe. You are the first and the last line of defense out there. And look, this isn't just about the tools the co-op gives you. The manual is crystal clear on this in Section 6A11. A supervisor has the authority and the responsibility to pull any unserviceable tool from the job. And notice that key phrase, regardless of ownership. So that trusty wrench you've had in your personal toolbox for years, it's got to meet the exact same safety standards as everything else. If it's not safe, it's not on the job. Period. No exceptions. All right, this next one is a habit you've got to build into your muscle memory. Inspect, don't expect. It's the absolute first thing you do every single time before you even think about using a tool. So when we say inspect, what are you actually looking for? The manual calls it a defective tool. But what does that really mean? What makes a tool defective when you're out in the field? It's not always as obvious as something being snapped in half. This is a perfect example, and a really common one. The manual points this out specifically for impact tools. Take a look. On the left, you've got a clean, properly shaped striking face. Safe. But on the right, you see that mushroomed head? That's not just normal wear and tear, folks. That's a huge red flag. That metal is fatigued, and the next time it's struck, that mushroomed edge can break off and become a projectile, literally shrapnel. This isn't just defective, it's a weapon waiting to go off. It has to be taken out of service, immediately.
And it's not just mushroomed heads. There are other major red flags you have to be watching for. You know, things like loose, cracked, or splintered handles on your hammers or axes. Or check your power tools. See any frayed or damaged electrical cords? Is a safety guard missing, or maybe even been modified? What about dull cutting edges that make you force the tool? Or leaking hoses on your hydraulic or pneumatic gear? Any one of these things, any one, means that tool is defective and unsafe.
Okay, so you found a defective tool. Now what? The procedure couldn't be simpler, and it is absolutely mandatory. 2 steps. First, you tag it. Get a dangerous do not use tag and put it right on the tool so there is no confusion. Step 2, you remove it. And I don't mean just setting it on the side of the truck bed. I mean take it completely out of service. Lock it up, get it off the site, whatever it takes so that nobody, and I mean nobody, can grab it by mistake. All right, so we've covered how to spot a bad tool. Now let's talk about using the good ones the right way. This is all about the rules for hand and power tools, doing the job with the right tool and using it the right way. This right here, from Section 6A13, is a huge one. Employees shall always use the proper tool for the job. Makeshift and substitute tools shall not be used. The manual doesn't mince words here. It's an absolute. No improvising. No using a screwdriver as a pry bar. Using a tool for something it wasn't designed for is just begging for something to go wrong.
And here is a classic example of what they mean by a makeshift tool. We've all seen it, right? Using a wrench like it's supposed to be used, that's safe. But on the right, slipping a pipe over the handle for extra leverage, that's a cheater bar. And the manual in section 6A20 straight up forbids it unless the tool was specifically made for that. Why? Because you're putting way more stress on that tool than it was designed for. You could snap the wrench, bust the bolt, or wind up with some seriously busted knuckles. Okay, let's shift gears now. We're about to raise the stakes. We're talking about the tools that demand an entirely different level of respect. Your specialized and liveline tools. With this equipment, the margin for error is zero. The stakes are way, way higher, which means the safety standards have to be too. I need everyone to listen to this very, very carefully. This is a direct quote from the manual about hydraulic tools, and it's not a suggestion, it's a command. Employees shall not use any part of their bodies to locate or attempt to stop a hydraulic leak. Just think about what that means. A tiny pinhole-sized leak in a hydraulic hose. It can shoot fluid out with enough force to pierce your skin. That's a high-pressure injection injury, and it can be catastrophic, leading to amputation or worse. So let me say it again. Never, ever, ever use your hand to check for a hydraulic leak. And that brings us to maybe the most important tools in your entire arsenal, your liveline tools. What are they? Well, the manual says they have special insulating qualities. What that really means is these are the tools designed to stand between you and thousands of volts of electricity. Their whole purpose, their only purpose, is to keep you from getting killed. That insulating surface is pristine for a reason, and you absolutely cannot treat these sticks like you treat a shovel. So how do we guarantee that insulation is still good? You need to remember this number: 2 years. That's it. 2 years is the absolute maximum time between dielectric tests for any liveline tool. That's the rule from section 6F5. Every single one of your hot sticks has to have verification of its last test date right on the tool itself. If you pick up a tool and you can't find that date or if it's expired, that tool is not safe, you don't use it, end of story. All right, let's talk about what happens after the work is done for the day. Because even when the job is finished, safety isn't. This last part is all about storage and upkeep. It's about how you protect the very tools that are designed to protect you. When it comes to your liveline tools, how you store them is just as important as how you inspect them. The manual makes this really simple. There are 2 big rules. First, they need their own dedicated containers. We're talking about the special bags, bins, or tubes designed to protect that critical insulating surface. And second, you've got to prevent damage. That means they are never just tossed into a truck bin with a bunch of other tools. Think about it. One sharp screwdriver or a metal bracket rubbing against that stick could create a tiny scratch or gouge. And that tiny scratch could be a path for electricity. It could be deadly. So we're going to end this right back where we started, with you. We've gone over a lot of rules from the manual, but honestly, it all boils down to one simple daily habit: a personal commitment. These tools are your lifeline, literally. So the only question that matters, the one you have to ask yourself at the start of every single shift is, did I check them today?